Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live as well as Danun Institute. And I wanted to take you guys on a little bit different journey this evening here, take a little break from the news here, talk to you about the Exodus that Moses, where he takes the children of Israel out of Egypt and crosses a place that Moses called Yam Suf in the Hebrew tongue, or the Red Sea, as it's often translated in the King James Bible. But this word, actually, Yam Suf, as you can see on the book I wrote, the second book I wrote, Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds, it's right here, Israel's final Exodus. It was really a book that I really had a lot of fun writing this book, and I felt like it would be something that would be a blessing. One, speaking about this very unusual story of why Moses refers to the Red Sea as Yam Suf, a sea of reeds. And in fact, because he calls it a sea of reeds, it really caused all types of issues among scholars wondering where would the actual crossing be. People have looked everywhere thinking that it must have reeds around it because, after all, Moses calls it Yam Suf, a sea of reeds. And it's led to all types of debates as to where the actual true Exodus would be. But there's never been any archaeological evidence discovered until a man by the name of Ron Wyatt actually discovered some of that evidence himself. I want to share with you a little bit about Ron Wyatt here. I've got, let's see, Ron Wyatt's photograph. Where is it at here? Ron, where are you at? Here we go. I think it's in this video right here. Ron Wyatt, and I will leave these different videos and the links here. And I'm not actually, I'm being a little bit on the side of caution here in some of the footage I show you here, because I know that there are some people that are very particular about what images can and cannot be seen in the discovery of the discoveries that Ron made himself. Ron was very, from what I discovered meeting his late wife, Mary Lou Wyatt Neal. She really shared a lot of insights with me there, but he is always so kind in sharing the discoveries that he made, especially about the Exodus, the Sea of Reeds, as it's called in Hebrew again, and through the things that he was so generous to share with, including that with Dr. Leonard Moeller and others there, even the Penny and Jim Caldwell. He had spoke with them, and I think that Jim and Penny were probably the kindest to him. And when they came back from Saudi Arabia after a long stint there, offering to share with him what they had discovered as well. But Ron was the first man to actually find what he believed to be the mountain of God, the actual mountain, as you can see in this photograph here, and I'm just using the internet here. This is Jabal el-Laz, is what it is actually called in Saudi Arabia in the Arabic language. But it was a very interesting feature here because the top of the mountain was actually burnt here. And numerous artifacts that were discovered, that Ron himself discovered, this here being another one that this was a huge altar here, and Ron found all types of carvings in there of the bulls and things of that nature, even finding in some cases the menorah engraved on this, Hebrew writings and things like that, some of the Hebrew alphabet that was discovered there on different things. And so all types of things were discovered there, even the split rock that was discovered, and I think the first people to make this rock very famous was Jim and Penny Caldwell, and the water erosion at the base of the rock. This is believed to be the actual rock that Moses smote at the beginning of the wilderness, or not the beginning of the wilderness journey, but perhaps at the latter part, 38 years later, where God says to Moses, go out and speak to the rock that it bring forth his water, but he got angry and smote the rock. And of course, from scientific evidence that the Caldwells speak about, the scientists that have looked at this say that it had to have been a massive force that split this rock, and the water erosion around the base of this rock is just really interesting. And of course, they discovered where there was an ancient riverbed all in that area. So very interesting things that have been discovered all in here, and all types of evidences here at Jabal el-Laz that show a presence And clearly it seems to be an Israelite presence that is at this location. But the really big issue, though, comes out as to the actual crossing. And Ron actually discovered that Nueva Beach on the Gulf of Aqaba, which is one of the arms off of the, as we call it, the Red Sea, was the best location. He actually found this, from what I understand, from a helicopter flight he was taking, I think from Israel, going down. And then he noticed the Wadi Watir there that clearly seemed to define a pathway that fit the biblical narrative. What got me into this story, though, besides, of course, seeing the different films that were out there, I had seen the Exodus Revealed. As you see here, I'm going to play a little bit of this here for you. This is actually the part I have it set on here, is Vivica Pontian, the part of the Exodus Revealed that she's in, because she as well discovered a chariot wheel on the Saudi side on the Gulf of Aqaba. Vivica discovered more things there. I actually had the privilege to meet Vivica and spend some time with her discussing some of the discoveries that she made. And of course, she knew Ron Wyatt and spent time with him. So very interesting. But on the book itself, where, and of course, real quick, they'll show you here, this is what's interesting, when they see these formations, they take the shapes of chariot wheels. Now, Dr. Leonard Moeller, when he does the documentary, The Exodus Revealed, because he's really spearheaded this documentary there, based on Ron Wyatt's discoveries there, they use a lot of footage in the documentary that is clearly Ron Wyatt's footage there. I did not know this in the beginning, though. It was things that were related to me later, that when you see the underwater film footage there and it shows you those formations that look like chariot wheels or spokes or hubs or things like that, that was actually Ron Wyatt's footage there. I don't know if Dr. Moeller ever discovered any of that in their own search that they did with the robotic camera, but they certainly did go there, and I know that Dr. Moeller has done a lot of other discoveries since he did this documentary with Vivica Pontian. But it was actually Ron. I think this video footage here, this is from one of Ron Wyatt's dives here. You'll always notice a little bit of a difference in the way the video actually looks. But that's just one of the issues there that I looked at. And of course, when I began to write the book Yam Suf, what drew me to the story was the fact that why would Moses call the Red Sea a sea of reeds? And the book is actually inspired from the movie Defiance that is about the Bielski family. You guys probably hear me talk about the Bielski family from time to time when I'm dealing with the news there. In fact, just before I go any further with this, the Mary Lou Wyatt, Neal, her married name now is Neal, but Mary Lou had given us permission. She's the only one that had the permission. I think she said it was the first time that she was ever given permission to actually use the photograph of the chariot wheel that Ron discovered on the Egyptian side at Nueva Beach there. Very interesting. And I write all about this. I write about what Ron Wyatt discovered. I write a lot about the different discoveries that were made by different people, including the Caldwells. And of course, I had reached out to each one, talking to them about what I was doing and to get permission from them as far as in cases of using photos in the book. The book actually has photos throughout the book there. And a lot of people were really involved in helping me to bring this book together. But I really appreciated the fact that Sister Mary Lou Wyatt allowed me to use the photo that Ron had taken there of that golden chariot wheel. And the story behind that is that gold cannot grow on, coral cannot grow on gold. And that was the reason why it was so well preserved. And I actually got to see the video footage when Ron discovered this. And it was covered up, but it was like a little sparkle or something caught his attention as he waved the dirt away that's when he found that chariot wheel. Now, from what I understand, it was the priests that actually had the golden chariot wheels. And of course, there's all kinds of information about this. Won't take the time to go into all of that there. But even as I wrote the book there and as I finished the book, there was a lot of people that really this book caught the attention of a lot of very well-known people. And I was very blessed to have several people that had written me emails about their thoughts on the books, including Dr. James Dobson, Dr. Chuck Missler, Rabbi Lappin, Dr. Ken Hansen, and author Rex Burns. And Dr. James Dobson, he had a very nice thing to say. He says it was encouraging. He actually says, with regards to the books you've written, Israel, are they still God's people? And Yom Suf, it was encouraging to note that you make a case for the reliability of the scriptural account concerning the people of Israel crossing the Red Sea. While we are confident in the truthfulness of God's Word, it is always heartening to hear of archaeological finds that provide supporting evidence for what the Bible says. And also, I liked a lot what Dr. Chuck Missler said. I actually went and met him in person, and we did do an interview together because there was a big interest with the History Channel at the time about this book here and making it into a documentary. But Chuck said here, he says, we're discovering that even the declaration of the letters carries meaning, so that while your instinct here triggered by the contemporary movie Defiance confirms the direction you felt instinctively, you put a perspective here on the Sea of Reeds that deserves some serious scholastic attention. Now, I'm going to be going into this in just a few minutes. I want to share with you the biblical narrative of this and what really inspired me when I was looking at writing this story here. And as well, we'll let it play here in the background here, but this was the trailer. And many of you guys see this on my channel when you first come and visit the channel there. You've probably watched this film right here. And this was a trailer that was put together by Cook Productions. We recently re-edited part of this trailer, though, because they included Dr. Chuck Missler, some of the things that I had said to him in the interview, but they had forgot to put the video footage in of Dr. Missler. So we actually included that in this as well. But what really got my attention on the story of Yom Suf is, and I'm pausing it right here for just a moment, is that picture itself right there. I'm going to go back to that in just a few minutes to share that with you. But this whole story, of course, like I said, it began for me, what really caused me to want to write the book Yom Suf was the story of the Bielski family. Because when I looked and seen the movie Defiance, I really began to realize that the Bielski family, Tovia Bielski specifically, really seemed to portray a scriptural event that I thought had been completely overlooked down through many, many years. And of course, everything that had happened that I'd seen kind of had built upon that story. Even Dr. David Roll, who's a friend of mine on Facebook there, his work in Egyptology and chronologically putting the Bible back in the place where it was originally, and to validate the Bible, you might say. It was that of seeing Dr. Moeller in the Exodus Revealed, seeing this incredible documentary, which you see footages of that now, where he brought to light the entire story of the Exodus and the discovery of Ron Wyatt. Now, sadly, I have to say, Ron is never mentioned in the film that I'm aware of. And that was kind of bothersome to me, as I discovered later, that the entire documentary that was done was all to do with what the Bielski family had actually discovered there. And by the way, right there, you see on your screen there, they were showing in the trailer they were making for the History Channel here, they were showing this wadi here, a dry riverbed that goes out to Nuweiba Beach there. And this is what Ron Wyatt had discovered himself as that pathway. Because the Bible speaks about, as they're leaving, they're doing their Exodus journey, the children of Israel, that they make that sudden turn They turn, and then they wander through the wilderness. And the only real wilderness are these mountains, these barren mountains that are there in the Sinai Peninsula, and end up, of course, down here at Nuweiba Beach. And what's interesting about Nuweiba Beach is once you come down there to Nuweiba Beach, and they actually here, they show that scripture on that, Exodus 13:8. So God turned the people toward the way of the wilderness to the Sea of Reeds, or the Red Sea, Yam Suf, and this is where that gets its name at. But as they actually go down there, they get trapped. The children of Israel are trapped. They have no way to go, as you can see in the pictures here. The mountains are just jagged way up. There's no way to get around it, and they're trapped, and the Egyptians are coming down this wadi there, and there's no escape. And so God miraculously parts the waters for them to get across. And of course, Rabbi Barris here, he also was one of the Jewish rabbis that really took an interest in this story as well, from a Jewish perspective, and agreed to be a part of this particular documentary that we were doing. And Chuck Missler, though, he was probably the one that really blessed my heart the most, the fact that he took the time with me and spent time with me to listen to this entire story, and then invited me up to his place there in Coeur d'Alene, Utah. And we filmed there, and me and my wife got to meet him. And, you know, I'd listened to a lot of his teachings anyway, and so I always appreciated his understanding on things. But he had followed the cases of, like, the Caldwells. I don't think he ever mentioned the Wyeths, but he followed the Jim and Penny Caldwell and their discoveries, and he was convinced, as he said in the interview that we did together, that indeed this was the truly where the children of Israel went there in that journey. But this is what gets interesting. As you look right here in the story of the Bielskis here, as it was showing, and I'll back it up just a little bit on the trailer here where they're showing this here. Daniel Craig plays the heroine, Tovia Bielski, which Tovia, with his two brothers, Zeus and Asoil, who are, let's see, I think it's Zeus is played by Ed Schreiber, and I forget the name of the other actor that plays his brother Asoil. But as they play out these characters, this man right here, Tovia Bielski, who's played by Daniel Craig, actually rescues 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust. It was a miraculous story to hear about. And me and my wife were watching this, and with all the information that I already knew about the Red Sea crossing, knowing that Ron White had discovered this place, he had found the chariot wheel there. Vivica Pontian had discovered a chariot wheel on the Saudi side of Nuweiba Beach there on the Gulf of Aqaba. I had seen this. I'd seen the documentary with Dr. Leonard Moeller, and I was always intrigued by that discovery. And I had seen the mountain, as I was showing you, the burnt mountain there at the place called Jabal El-Az. I'd seen the information that the Caldwells had produced for the split rock and their findings also at Jabal El-Az, as they had spent many years in Saudi Arabia as her husband was there on a work permit, same as Vivica Pontian on a work permit. And she also went there herself to not only to the mountain, but also to the Red Sea crossing to look for the evidence of the actual crossing. So it was really intriguing for me to discover all this, but one thing always stood in the way of understanding this whole story. And that was, if this truly was the Exodus route, why did Moses call it Yam Suf? Yam Suf being a sea of reeds, because there's no evidence whatsoever that there's reeds or that there ever was reeds. And I had read, of course, reading the Bible many times and everything in my life, and there's just certain passages that just stand out in your mind. And me and my wife were watching the movie Defiance because I knew the Bielski family. In fact, what was ironic, I had already begun to write the book, Yam Suf, when I met Michael Bielski, the oldest son of Tuvia Bielski, who had been the heroine saving all these Jews from the Holocaust, him and his brothers. and fought back the Germans, worked with the Russian partisans there in Belarus. In fact, Belarus was one of the country there where they lived out in the country, but the city that they were near had one of the largest mass murders of Jews in the entire Holocaust period by the Germans. But while all this was going on, we're watching the movie. I'd seen the movie already at the theater, but we'd actually purchased the movie. We were watching it one night at home. And this part of the movie was playing that they put here in the trailer for the History Channel. And as I'm watching this, I see this image right here that you see now. I'm watching the movie, and it switches from his brother Asoil telling him, you know, we won't cross by miracles, but we will cross by the miracle of our own strength. Now, Michael tells me that was not actually said in real life. That is just what was said to make the movie look more interesting. But as soon as the camera turned and I saw this image right here, and Michael Bielski said to me this was filmed in the Nalibak forest. They would not allow them to film in Belarus, so they filmed it in Lithuania. But it actually was the same forest that his father had also rescued all these Jews and hid from the Germans and moved about from camp to camp, much like that of Moses moving around the children of Israel. And when I seen the image pop up on the screen, I hit pause on the remote. I jumped up off of the couch, full of inspiration. And I said to my wife, this is what Moses was speaking about. My wife didn't have the foggiest idea of what I was talking about. And I grabbed the Bible. And when I grabbed the Bible, I turned over to Jeremiah chapter 16. It's also in Jeremiah chapter 23. I'm going to share that with you real quick here so that you can see that as well. I jumped over there, and when I grabbed that particular chapter there, and I read these words right here, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, as the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But as the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the countries, whither he had driven them. And I will bring them back into their own land, into their land, and that I gave unto their fathers." Now it's children of Israel. It's not the house of Israel, the children of Israel. But did you notice as well that he separates all the countries from the land of the north? He says, "But as the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north." All right? Me'eretz Tzifon. From the land that's hidden. Now, when I saw that, my wife, she didn't quite understand what I was alluding to. And so I began to explain it. I said, Moses, no doubt, had no idea what he was saying when he referred to the Red Sea as Yam Suf. And there's a whole bunch of issues of why it actually gets the name Red Sea in English. I go into that in the book. I'm sure you'd find it very interesting. But the point was, it's the land of the north here is separated, and says that God is saying that they will no longer say, "The Lord liveth that brought the children of Israel up out of Egypt," but they will say, "The Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of the north and all the other countries whither I've driven them." But the land of the north was separated from all those other lands. Why? God compares it to the Exodus of Egypt. And in the story of the Bielski family, that's exactly what we get. In fact, Tovia Bielski was referred to by the survivors because 1,200 of them are rescued. And it's Tovia, the lead character that's played by Daniel Craig. He is the main figure in rescuing the Jews, regardless who they were, elderly, young. It didn't make any difference to him if they were crippled, whatever. He was all about rescuing the Jewish people. And they called him their modern-day Moses. The difference is from the Exodus of 3500 BC and that of this Exodus, they crossed a true Yam Suf, a true Sea of Reeds. Whereas the children of Israel went across the Gulf of Aqaba. Now the ironic thing about this was Mickey Bielski shared with me the details of what actually happened. He said his father, being in the military, in the Polish military before the Holocaust, learned the ways of being a soldier. And he actually lined the people up. Didn't know for sure what to do. One of his comrades come up to him. Said he surveyed the forest there that they were hiding in before the war, as we see in some of the images in this film right here. And he told him that there is an island in the middle of the swamp. Mickey Bielski said it was 8 miles across this marshy reeds that they went. He said, in fact, the Germans were hot on their trail. This is why they were fleeing. The Russian partisans had came to Tovia and said to him, the Germans have decided to try to kill all of you off. They know you're hiding in this wilderness. And if you don't flee, you're going to die. Everything like the original Exodus of the children of Israel with the original Moses and Aaron and Miriam was happening right here in this very story as well. Their backs were against the wall, and Tovia didn't know what to do. He knew that if he went any other way, they would be killed by the German army. So Tovia takes and he lines the people up and he quietens them down. And he says, we're going to cross this swamp. There is an island there of refuge where we can survive. And when they went in, and at that time, Mickey Bielski, his son, tells me there were about 800 that he had already rescued. He rescues 400 more after this event here. But he took and they began to go through these reeds. He said by the time the last one was buried into the reeds, going through the swamp there, the Germans came down. He said the Germans tried to follow them into the swamp, but they couldn't handle it and they had to back out. They were firing bullets and everything, trying to fire through the swamp, hoping to kill them. And Mickey Bielski said there wasn't one single person wounded, injured, or died. Everyone made it to safety. But what really got me is when Mickey Bielski says to me that these people here, when they had crossed through these woods here, I've discovered as well that the Gulf of Aqaba, where the children of Israel actually crossed the Red Sea in Moses' time, was also 8 miles across. And so to see the parallel, to see the Egyptian army chasing Moses, to see the Germans chasing the Bielskis and the Jews that he was trying to gather out of there as well, to see this incredible parallel, and the Lord revealing to my heart, this is the fulfillment of the story in Jeremiah 16, and Jeremiah 23 writes the same story. They will no longer say the Lord lives that delivers the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord lives that delivered the children of Israel from the land of the north and all other countries, whether they had been driven. It was amazing to see it. And, so when I wrote the book, I go into all of this. I go into what Ron Wyatt had discovered. I talk about the Caldwells, a little brief part in there about their work that they had done. I go into the historical side of that. But what really blesses my heart the most is when I get to the last chapter and I write about the redemption of Israel. Because my desire was to be able to tell not only what we see here, but also to tell the redemption of Israel. And this was the interview that I was doing with Dr. Chuck Missler. I didn't have a beard back in those days. It's been a long time ago since I did this here. But this here just really moved my heart, and I wrote a book about it. Now, I'm actually working on another book now, and I'm not going to say anything about the book I'm writing right now. I did start on a book about Daniel, but there's another book that's been moving on my heart to write for a long time, and I've started on that book, and God is revealing a lot to me in this other book that I'm writing now. And I'm wanting to share that information with you guys as soon as it's done, and I'm hoping by the grace of God I'll be done with that book before long. But I thought it would really bless you guys to hear about this story here, because there's so few people that know that I wrote the book Yam Suf. And we wanted to make it available for you guys if you want to be able to buy it directly from us here at Israeli News Live. And if you would like to be able to get the book, you can get the book. And this is the book here, right here, just like you see on your screen there. I forget how long of a book it is. I know it's actually quite lengthy. It is, about 261 pages long. But there's about 100 pages in the last chapter that speaks of the redemption of Israel and many of the insights that God has given me about Israel's redemption. And it's an incredible tool to use for witnessing to Jewish people. And that was one reason, too, for writing the book, was to bless the Jewish people. We want to make it available to you if you guys would like to order it directly from us. You can order it online as well. It is available online, Barnes & Noble. I was looking there. It's on Books A Million. There's all kinds of places you can order it there. Even on our website, you can directly order it. But we want to be able to ship it to you personally. And I want to pray over the books that we send out to you. And so it actually retails for $17.99. And so what we thought about doing was just making it available for an even $18. We will include the shipping. I know if you go to Barnes & Noble, I think they're like 16 something or 15 something, but they charge the shipping, and then so you get it for like about $19.50. So we figure we just do it even $18. If it's in the United States, we will cover the shipping for you, and we want to pray over it. So we're just doing it as a donation only. So if you want, if you want to order it from us directly, just go to our website, israelinewslive.org. Let me kind of show that to you to make it easier. And then when you go to israelinewslive.org, right here on the front of our page here, it has Donate Online. Just take, if you would, click on the donate button there. And when you do, you'll be able to donate online. But make sure you put in the description there that you want us to send you the book. I need you to make sure you note that in the description. Also, at the end of the video here, right on the bottom of our screen, normally right up under the TV here, you see our address there here in the United States. Send us, if you want, send us a letter. Just make sure you put a note inside the letter there. You would like us to send you the book, Yam Suf, The Sea of Reeds, Israel's Final Exodus, and I'll send that out to you guys as well. I'm not into merchandising and things of that nature there. When I wrote this book, I wrote it strictly from my heart, as the book I'm working on now. So that's why I don't speak about it very often. But, you know, someone said to me just recently, they said, Steve, oh my gosh, someone that knew me very well, they said, I didn't even know you wrote this book. And they said, you know, you really should kind of just share that story again with the people, because there are thousands of people that listen into your broadcast that no doubt would enjoy getting that book. So again, it's just a donation of $18. If you want to do more in support of the ministry, we appreciate that, but there's no obligation for that. We're just we want to be able to actually send it to you ourselves, specifically because I want to pray over each book that I send out just as a blessing to you. If for some reason you're buying it for a friend or whatever and you would like us to make a notation in there, it's for so-and-so, I'll gladly do that as well. We love you. God bless you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for those of you that support this ministry, whether it be with your kind giving or whether it be your prayers or even both. Prayers are so important to us, and we thank you for your love. Shalom, and God bless you.